The story of the cross is a profound paradox. Perfect love meeting absolute rejection. It is a moment where the deepest compassion is met with the harshest cruelty, and where the greatest gift is answered with violence. On a hill outside Jerusalem, Jesus offered himself to the world he made, speaking of peace and justice, yet met with suspicion and violence. He walked among those he loved, teaching forgiveness and mercy, but was misunderstood and betrayed by the very people he came to save. The hands that healed were nailed to a cross, a contradiction at the center of Christian faith. The healer became the wounded, the giver became the one who lost everything, and the innocent suffered for the guilty. Here, divine power chose vulnerability, accepting hatred without retaliation. Instead of responding with force, Jesus absorbed the world's violence, showing a strength that is found in surrender. The cross is not just history, it's a mirror to our own longing for love and our tendency to push it away. It reveals the struggle within each of us, the desire to be loved and the fear that keeps us from accepting it. The world's powers thought they were silencing a threat, but they were witnessing a new kind of power: self-giving love. In their attempt to destroy, they unknowingly revealed the depth of God's compassion. This love is not sentimental, it's fierce, enduring betrayal and pain. It is a love that does not turn away from suffering, but enters into it fully, refusing to let darkness have the final word. Jesus' words, "Father, forgive them," break the cycle of revenge and offer a new way forward. Forgiveness becomes the doorway to transformation, and mercy the path to freedom. The love that created and sustains the cosmos came down to heal its wounds. In the midst of brokenness, hope is born, and the possibility of new life emerges. To understand the journey from cross to resurrection, we must sit with this paradox and not rush past the crucifixion. Only by facing the pain and mystery can we glimpse the promise of renewal. The cross is where God meets us in our darkest places, taking on our sorrow and death. In our loneliness and despair, we are not abandoned, but accompanied by a love that refuses to let go. He enters our suffering to heal from within, not to condemn. In our weakness, he brings strength. In our wounds, he plants seeds of hope. This is the scandalous beauty of the cross, God's yes to humanity confronting our no to God. It is the place where grace overcomes judgment and love triumphs over fear. Somehow, love finds a way to win. Even in the face of death, hope rises, and the story is not over. The journey begins here, in the tension between loss and hope. The cross invites us to enter the mystery, to trust that even in our darkest moments, love is at work, leading us toward resurrection. After it is finished, a heavy, almost unbearable silence fell upon the world. For Jesus' followers, this was not a moment of peace, but of terror and confusion. Their Messiah was dead, their hopes buried with him in the tomb. The disciples hid away, paralyzed by fear and overwhelming grief, their sense of purpose shattered, their movement stilled by sorrow. My God, why have you forsaken me?" Jesus' desperate cry became their own, echoing through their hearts, amplifying their doubts and despair. The silence was the sound of dreams dying, of a world slipping back into darkness, of hope being snuffed out like a candle. This deep despair is crucial. It validates real suffering and honest doubt, reminding us that faith is not immune to pain. Their faith was not naive or blind. It had stared directly into the abyss, wrestling with the silence and the unknown. The disciples were ordinary people, left with only loss and uncertainty, their dreams seemingly ended. The silence was not just sadness, but the apparent end of a story they had believed would change everything. The powers of death and darkness seemed to have won, closing the chapter on hope. The disciples mourned, not expecting a miracle, but preparing to return to their old lives, forever marked by what might have been. The silence of that night was the cold, unyielding quiet of a sealed tomb, a world frozen in grief. It seemed in that moment that darkness had truly overcome the light. Yet, this silence is part of the journey, where faith is tested, where hope seems lost, and where questions linger in the shadows. In the stillness, the story waits to turn, holding its breath for what comes next. The silence is not the end, but a pause, a sacred space between despair and dawn. It is the pause before something new, the quiet before hope is reborn. The cross was more than an execution. It was a cosmic turning point, a moment when all of creation seemed to pause, holding its breath in anticipation of what would unfold. All the world's brokenness, pain and sorrow converged on Jesus, who absorbed it willingly, taking upon himself the weight of humanity's suffering. This was not passive suffering, but an active battle against the powers of sin and death, a struggle waged not with weapons, but with unwavering resolve and sacrificial love. Jesus fought not with violence or anger, but by exhausting evil through love, meeting hatred with forgiveness and darkness with light. Early Christians saw the cross as the place where the ruler of this world was cast out, a moment of cosmic liberation when the chains of oppression began to break. The sky darkened, the earth shook, and the temple curtain tore from top to bottom, signs that the old order was ending and something entirely new was beginning. The barrier between God and humanity was being removed, opening a way for reconciliation and hope. All the forces of darkness threw everything at Jesus, unleashing their fury, but in dying, he broke death's power and shattered the grip of evil. By entering death, he disarmed it from within, transforming the grave from a place of despair into a doorway of hope. The cross is the great reversal. Weakness becomes strength, defeat becomes victory, and death becomes the gateway to new life and endless possibility. For Christians, the cross is not defeat, but triumph, a throne of wounded love, where suffering is transformed into glory. It redefines power, glory, and wisdom, turning the world's values upside down. True power absorbs hatred and returns love, breaking cycles of violence and revenge. True glory is humble service, lifting up the lowly and caring for the forgotten. True wisdom is giving yourself away, pouring out your life for others in acts of selfless generosity. This cosmic shift changes everything, ushering in a new dawn for humanity and creation itself. The world would never be the same. Hope now shines where there was only darkness, and love has the final word. Holy Saturday is the day of stillness, often overlooked between sorrow and joy. Jesus is dead, the disciples are hiding, and the world seems unchanged. This day represents our own in-between times, waiting, uncertainty, silence. Yet, Christian tradition holds that beneath the surface, profound work was happening. Jesus descended to the dead, not into nothingness, but on a mission to proclaim victory and set captives free. On the surface, all was quiet. Underneath, a revolution was taking place. Holy Saturday teaches us to trust God even when we cannot see Him working. His silence is not absence. In our own tomb-like moments, when dreams die or hope fades, Holy Saturday invites us to wait in hope. It's a day for quiet contemplation, trusting the story isn't over. The tomb is not the final destination, but a place of transition. Holy Saturday is the deep breath before the dawn. All creation holds its breath, waiting for new life. The pause is crucial. Resurrection is coming. Jesus' descent to the dead, known as the harrowing of hell, is a mysterious, powerful part of the story. He entered Sheol, the realm of the dead, not in defeat, but as a triumphant rescuer. He broke death's gates, leading captives into the light. Adam, Eve, and all who waited in hope. This was for all humanity, across all history. Jesus, the new Adam, undoes the curse of death. No one is forgotten. God's love reaches every depth. He fills even the darkest places with His presence, turning death from an enemy into a passage. This rescue mission declares that death does not have the final word. On Holy Saturday, a new king entered death's domain, not to negotiate, but to liberate. The tomb is not a dead end, but a doorway to new creation. This is the good news for all who have ever lived and died. The resurrection is not just a comeback, it's the beginning of something entirely new. Jesus didn't return to His old life, He inaugurated God's new creation. His resurrected body was physical, yet transformed, the prototype of a new humanity. The resurrection is the launch of God's renewal project for the whole cosmos. Jesus is the first fruits, the guarantee that all creation will be renewed. This new creation changes everything. The present world is not the final version. Jesus, mistaken for a gardener, is planting seeds of eternal life in this old world. The resurrection is about God transforming the world, not escaping it. It's a world-changing event that gives us purpose now. Every act of love, truth, and beauty points to this new reality. We are called to live as citizens of new creation, here and now. The story continues through us. The first witnesses to the resurrection were not the famous disciples, but a group of women, Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Salome, and others. They came to the tomb in grief, not expecting a miracle, but became the first to proclaim the good news. In a world that dismissed their testimony, God chose them as primary witnesses. God's kingdom values the marginalized and the faithful over status. The resurrection story begins with these brave, forgotten heroes. Ordinary people, like Cleopas and his companion, were transformed by encounters with the risen Jesus. He met them in their despair and turned them around. The early church spread the message not through the powerful, but through ordinary people gripped by hope. Empowered by the Spirit, they lived with extraordinary love and courage. The Untold journey is filled with these heroes, whose witness changed the world. Their story is our story. The journey from cross to resurrection is not finished. It unfolds in our lives today. It's the story of hope born from despair, life from death. We see it in communities rebuilding, in recovery from addiction, in relationships healed by forgiveness, echoes of Easter. This journey doesn't avoid suffering. It shows suffering doesn't have the last word. The cross is real, but so is resurrection. The Christian story offers not escape, but the promise that God is present even in darkness. Living this journey means choosing hope, practicing forgiveness, and working for justice. We participate in resurrection every time we choose love over fear. The power that raised Jesus is still at work, transforming lives and communities. The journey continues with every act of kindness and courage. Resurrection is not distant doctrine, it's a present reality. Our ordinary lives become the stage for this extraordinary drama. The story lives on in us. The story of the cross and resurrection is not just history, it's an open invitation. We're invited to bring our brokenness to the cross, trusting that God is with us. Our tombs, places of hopelessness, are not final, but places where new life can begin. This invitation is for everyone, no matter who you are or what you've done. God's love is more powerful than our rejection. The arms of the risen Christ are open in welcome. Accepting this invitation means embarking on a journey of faith, transformation, and mission. The story is still alive, living news, not just ancient history. The journey from cross to resurrection is the story of the world as it's meant to be. The invitation stands, a living promise of hope for all.